every January, right? Or, every Monday morning, we make this sort of contract with ourselves.
Oh, yeah. This time it'll be different contract.
Exactly. This time I'll be disciplined.
Mm.
We think we can just use sheer willpower to hit all our goals. And then inevitably, for most of us anyway, it all just kind of crumbles.
And the first thing we do is blame ourselves.
Immediately. We think, oh, I just don't have enough internal resolve. We sort of worship this idea of discipline. And when we fail, we just feel guilty, frustrated, inadequate.
It is the most punishing, self-help cycle. And it's just exhausting and, frankly, totally unnecessary.
So that's what this is all about.
Right. This core belief
Yeah.
that the only thing standing between you and your goals is some kind of infinite reservoir of personal willpower is just fundamentally flawed.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of this deep dive, what we're calling design over discipline, is to challenge that idea. We want to show you why most of our behavioral failures, they're not personal failings. They're not because you have weak resolve. They're because of poorly structured external environments that are actively working against you.
So we're not going to be talking about motivational quotes or, just setting smart goals.
Oh, no, not at all.
We're digging into the actual neuroscience, the behavioral economics that prove you don't really need more willpower. What you need is better design.
Exactly. We'll be breaking down things like choice architecture and neuroarchitecture to show you how you can generate automatic behavior change. Basically, how to bypass the need for that constant training self-control.
And to really get that, you have to start with the source of the conflict, which is our own minds.
Right. We think of decision-making as this one single rational thing, but biologically, it's more like a duel happening inside your head all the time.
Okay, let's unpack that duel. We're talking about the dual process model of the brain, right? This is sort of the foundation for this whole conversation. How do these two systems work?
Well, you can think of it as operating with two minds. The first is what we call System 1. This is the old brain. It's fast, it's intuitive, emotional, automatic.
The autopilot.
The perfect word for it. It's amazing at handling habits, recognizing patterns, making split-second calls. But, and this is the key part, it's incredibly susceptible to whatever the environment throws at it. So if you're overwhelmed, or short on time, or just running on habit, System 1 just takes the wheel.
That's the part of your brain that, you walk past the kitchen counter and your hand has already grabbed a handful of chips before the logical part has even logged on to count the calories.
That's a perfect example. It's pure instinct and proximity. It's efficient, but it's very easily manipulated by context.
And then the other system.
That's System 2. This is the new brain slow, reflective, effortful, logical. This is where your explicit goals live. It's the part we think of as willpower.
Right.
So choice architecture, which is really just the umbrella term for designing your environment, it's built to target that instinctive System 1.
I see the strategy. So instead of trying to constantly get System 2 ready for this, exhausting, endless fight against instinct, you find a back door. You influence the really powerful automatic system.
Exactly.
But why? Why is the brain so eager to bypass the slow, logical System 2, even when we have the best intentions?
It all comes down to energy. It's a neurobiological thing, that slow, logical System 2 work. It has an incredibly high metabolic cost. It just burns through glucose.
It's expensive.
Very expensive. Evolutionarily, our brains are wired to conserve energy, even though we live in a world of abundant calories now. So every time you force yourself to analyze something or deliberate or resist an urge, you are demanding a huge, costly energy drain from your brain.
It's like the brain has its own internal efficiency mandate, always looking for the cognitive shortcut.
That's it, exactly. And that's why choice architecture is so powerful. It provides the path of least resistance for the behavior you want. It uses the brain's own tendency to minimize effort. So if your environment is designed so that the good choice takes almost no mental energy,
System 1 will just take it.
It will automatically take that route. It's the energy-saving option.
Yeah.
And if the bad choice requires even a tiny bit of effort, a little bit of friction, the brain will just instantly swerve away from it.
Okay, that distinction between System 1 and System 2 is a perfect setup. So what happens when we ignore all that? When we just try to rely on willpower, on our amazing System 2 to carry us through the day? Where does it all fall apart?
Well, we immediately run up against the scientific limits of self-control. This ability to override an automatic response, like, reaching for a cigarette or clicking on social media, is called self-regulation. And the science is very clear. Self-regulation is a limited capacity.
It runs out.
It runs out. It's subject to short-term fatigue, which in psychology is often called ego depletion.
So we have to stop thinking of willpower as this, like, infinite moral trait. It's really more like a battery that just runs down with use.
A battery is the perfect metaphor.
What are some of the things that are draining this battery every day that we don't even realize are so costly?
Oh, the list is huge. Anything that requires that top-down control is drawing from that finite battery. Think about just daily choices,
Hmm.
what behavioral economists call decision fatigue.
Right.
If you're a manager or a parent and you spend all morning making dozens of decisions about budgets, schedules, people, you are just continuously draining the self-regulation you're going to need later to, say, resist ordering takeout or to make yourself go to the gym.
That explains why some of the most successful people, wear the same thing every day or eat the same lunch. They're just outsourcing those low-stakes decisions to save that battery for what matters.
100%. Another huge drain is emotional suppression. If you spend your day trying to manage nervousness before a big presentation or just having to control your emotions at a really stressful meeting, that takes immense cognitive effort. It's a massive, hidden cognitive tax.
And what about just hard work, like complex mental tasks?
Absolutely. Analyzing a huge data set, detailed strategic planning, learning a complicated new piece of software, all of that just rapidly depletes your reserves,
And we haven't even mentioned chronic stress.
which is the silent killer of willpower. Managing, constant financial pressure or being a long-term caregiver. These things keep that willpower battery perpetually low. They just make achieving any new goal exponentially harder.
It's clear we're already tired by noon, even if we feel fine physically.
Mhm.
But it's not just the things we do that drain us. You said the environment itself can impose a tax, a cognitive hijack. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, this brings us to cognitive load theory, or CLT.
Mm.
It's fundamental. It shows that our short-term memory, our working memory, which is like the brain's tiny little sticky note, is incredibly vulnerable to what's called extraneous cognitive load coming from the environment.
And that's just stuff that forces your brain to process something that's irrelevant to what you're actually trying to do.
Precisely. It directly interferes with your executive functions because it's taxing your mental bandwidth.
So you don't even have to be consciously thinking, wow, this room is a mess, for that mess to be actively hurting your focus.
Correct. Visual clutter is a literal, measurable tax. Every extra object in your field of vision, a pile of mail, dirty dishes, it costs a tiny sliver of working memory because your brain has to process it, even if just to dismiss it.
We think we've stopped noticing the mess, but our brain hasn't.
Your brain is working overtime. The suppression mechanism is active and it's incredibly energy intensive. It demands greater activation of a brain region called the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC.
Okay, we need to pause on that. The anterior cingulate cortex. What is that, and why is activating it so costly?
The ACC is basically your brain's conflict monitor and error detector. It flags when there's a mismatch between where you are and where you want to be. So when you're sitting at a messy desk, the ACC is just constantly firing to suppress the visual noise of the clutter.
It's running a background process.
A very costly background process. And this continuous low-level activation results in significant mental fatigue, even if you're not consciously aware that you're fighting your environment.
That is the deep neurological reason you feel so drained at the end of a day in a messy space. You've spent precious energy just filtering out your own room.
And the data on this is really strong. Studies show a direct correlation between cluttered homes and elevated levels of cortisol, the stress hormone.
So your environment is literally creating a biological stress response.
Exactly. It's priming you for fight or flight, which is the total opposite of the state you need for focused, deep work.
And what about the reverse? What happens when we intentionally organize our space?
Well, moving into a neat, organized space instantly reduces that extraneous load. It's linked to increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the PFC, which is the brain's command center for focus and planning.
So decluttering isn't just about aesthetics, it's a neurobiological intervention.
That's the perfect way to put it. We have measurable results on this. The research suggests an organized environment can boost productivity by up to 77%. And critically, it can reduce those cortisol levels by as much as 27%. By removing decisions about where to put your keys or your mail, you low rate that neural bandwidth for what really matters. Your environment is either draining your battery faster or it's serving as an extended mind, offloading those demands so your system too can actually do its job.
Okay, that is a phenomenal foundation. Our intentions, our system two, are limited, they're easily depleted, and they're constantly being sabotaged by these environmental taxes. So how do we use external structures to make success automatic? This gets us to the core tool, choice architecture?
Choice architecture is a great metaphor, first used by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein. It's this idea that every choice we make happens inside a structure. A choice architect consciously designs that structure by, adding or removing information or just changing how it's presented to gently guide you in a beneficial direction.
It's like designing the path of least resistance so that path just happens to lead to the best option.
That's it exactly. And the most powerful tool in the whole toolkit is the default option.
The default setting.
Right. Defaults work because of behavioral inertia. Most people will just stick with whatever requires no effort. But it's actually deeper than just laziness. Defaults carry this sort of implicit recommendation. They establish a powerful social norm.
So if the default is the desired choice, people stick with it because doing something different feels like a bigger deal. It feels like you're actively going against the grain.
Precisely. And this is what makes the difference between an opt-in and an opt-out policy so huge, especially in the famous case of organ donation.
Yes, this is such a powerful example because it shows how design literally changes the meaning of the choice.
It's the perfect illustration. Countries with opt-in systems where you have to actively check a box to donate, they really struggle. They might get, 15–20% participation.
Whereas opt-out countries where donation is the default unless you actively uncheck the box.
They often hit 85% or higher. But the critical insight here isn't just inertia. It's that the meaning attached to participating is completely different.
Okay, walk us through that. How did researchers show that the default changes the perceived moral cost of the decision?
Well, they ran studies where they asked people to rate organ donation compared to other actions, of varying effort and self-sacrifice. Under an opt-in system where you have to take an action, it's seen as this grand act of altruism.
And they could quantify that perceived sacrifice, right?
They could. For American participants imagining an opt-in country, donating your organs was seen as psychologically equivalent to giving away half of your wealth upon death.
Wow. That is a massive psychological hurdle.
A huge hurdle. But in stark contrast, when they imagined an opt-out country where donation is the default, the act of not agreeing was seen as the bigger social failure, as ignoring a responsibility.
And the act of participating itself was just reclassified.
Completely. Under the opt-out structure, donating was rated as a relatively minor act. It fell somewhere between letting someone get ahead of you in line and volunteering a little bit of time to help the poor.
That is an incredible shift in magnitude.
It is. The design of the paperwork literally reframed the choice from a massive, costly sacrifice to a minor, almost effortless act of civic duty. That is the power of the default on System 1.
So if you want to encourage any behavior, making the good choice automatic and effortless, the default is the easiest way to do it.
And if you can't set a hard default, then you turn to the second tool, information restructuring. This is about changing how complex information is presented so it clicks with a person's goals, like saving money or being healthy.
This is a perfect bridge to the MPG illusion. Most of us want to be fuel efficient, but the standard metric, miles per gallon, actively confuses our brains. Why is MPG so tricky psychologically?
It's because MPG is a nonlinear metric, and our brains are terrible at intuitive nonlinear math. For example, the improvement from a 10 MPG car to a 20 MPG car feels like a 10 MPG jump. It saves you 5 gallons over 100 miles. But the improvement from a 40 MPG car to a 50 MPG car also feels like a 10 MPG jump, but it only saves you half a gallon over 100 miles. Our brains see 10 and think the benefit is the same, even though the practical money-saving benefit is 10 times greater in the first case.
It's our fast, intuitive System 1 just failing at complex math. So how did choice architects fix this?
They moved from a nonlinear metric, MPG, to a linear one, gallons per 100 miles. The 2013 U.S. fuel economy label started doing this. It makes the comparison instantly clear to System 1.
Right. If one car uses 5 gallons and another uses 3, you immediately see the difference is 2 gallons. It's simple subtraction.
It offloads the math from your effortful System 2.
Yeah.
And you can even take it a step further. Some research suggests the ultimate cognitive shortcut is to show the total cost of gas over 100,000 miles.
Which is about the lifetime of a car for most people.
Exactly. That big dollar-based number feeds directly into your cost-saving goal on a scale that is meaningful and instantly understood. It's pure design that maximizes clarity.
So we have defaults, which automate the choice itself, and restructuring, which automates understanding the choice. This leads to a distinction you make between process nudges and outcome nudges.
Right, an outcome nudge is designed to shift everyone toward one specific outcome, like the MPG label pushing you toward fuel efficiency. A process nudge, on the other hand, just helps you better process information so you can make choices that align with your own personal values, whatever they may be.
So the process nuts helps me do what I already want to do, but just better.
Precisely. A greenhouse gas rating on a car is a classic process nudge. It's a little signpost that reminds you of the environmental context. And what's crucial is that studies show this only really works for people who already have strong pro-environmental attitudes.
So it's not forcing a preference.
Not at all. It's just clarifying the path and removing the friction for a goal you already hold.
That idea of clarifying the path leads us straight to the next big mechanism, friction. If we know the brain always seeks the path of least resistance, then, the easiest way to kill a bad habit is to make it slightly annoying. And the easiest way to start a good one is to remove the hurdles.
That's the core idea. Frictions are just external barriers. They can be search costs, time, paperwork, complexity, physical distance, whatever. When we design environments, we're trying to get rid of these external barriers that stop us from acting in our own best interest.
So if friction is the enemy, then nudging is just the act of removing that friction. How does that look in the real world?
Well, a powerful type of nudge is information feedback. Timely, intuitive feedback helps you improve because it clearly connects your action to a consequence, which is the language system one understands best.
Can you give us a specific example of that?
Sure. Think about energy monitoring. There's a famous design called the power-aware cord. It's basically a power strip that lights up while it's drawing power. And it gets brighter or pulses faster as more power is being used. This gives you instant visual feedback about your energy use without you having to, read a complicated meter or wait for a shocking bill at the end of the month.
Right. By then, it's too late. The cord externalizes the consequence in real time.
Exactly. Your system one can then automatically adjust your behavior to keep the light dim. It's a simple, elegant nudge.
And what about something even simpler, like reminders?
Reminders are a classic friction removal nudge. A simple text from the library a few days before your books are due. It combats overdue returns. The friction you're removing is the mental burden of having to remember a deadline. You're outsourcing your memory to the environment.
So if nudging is removing friction for good behaviors, then we have to talk about its evil twin, sludge.
Yes, sludge. Sludge is the inverse. It's strategically adding friction to deter undesirable behaviors.
The classic bureaucratic hurdle.
The classic example. Signing up for a news service is one click. That's a nudge. But trying to unsubscribe, you have to call during a specific 2-hour window, navigate a phone tree, talk to 3 different people.
Endure the mandatory retention speech.
Right. That whole complex, high-effort process is sludge. It's designed to make leaving so annoying that your system one just gives up and takes the path of least resistance, which is to stay subscribed.
It's so powerful. And this whole concept of friction is so deeply tied to what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
To visual cues and proximity, we just choose what's most obvious.
Constantly. Our behavior is dictated by the salience of our choices, what stands out, what's available. And visual cues and physical proximity are the main drivers of that. They're environmental signposts that System 1 just cannot ignore.
And the most famous, almost unbelievable example of this is the Schiphol Airport fly. It's just a masterclass in System 1 design.
It really is a study in automaticity. So Schiphol Airport had a problem with spillage around the men's room urinals. It was unhygienic. Instead of putting up signs, which require System 2,
which everyone ignores anyway,
they etched the image of a small fly into the center of the bowl. And this tiny visual cue improved men's aim so dramatically that it led to huge reductions in cleaning costs.
So why does a fly work better than a sign that says, please aim here?
Because the sign requires System 2. You have to read it, agree with it, then apply effort to follow the instruction. The fly is pure System 1. Humans, especially men, have this ingrained automatic response to target things. The fly provides an instant, compelling target. It triggers an automatic behavior without asking for any willpower.
It's genius in its simplicity. We're always looking for targets, and the environment just provided one for the right action.
And the exact same principle applies to physical placement or proximity. If you put healthy food at eye level in the fridge or a set of dumbbells next to your desk, you dramatically shift your behavior.
And the inverse is true. If the cookies require a trip to the basement and opening 3 different containers,
System 1 will likely just give up. You're adding friction to the bad habit, bypassing the need for willpower entirely.
I see this everywhere now, especially grocery stores. They are just meticulously designed choice architecture environments.
Yeah, absolutely are. The fresh produce is right at the front. It's colorful, makes you feel good about your trip. But then you get to the checkout line, It is the ultimate friction test.
Ugh.
It's designed to get you with maximum temptation, candy, soda, magazines, at the exact moment your willpower battery is at its lowest after an hour of decision fatigue. Proximity and timing,
Yeah.
they're everything.
Okay, so we've established that design is this incredibly powerful lever for automatic behavior, but this goes way beyond just, where you put your food. It's a subconscious lever for our fundamental mental state, our stress, our creativity, our sleep. This is where we get into neuroarchitecture.
Right, neuroarchitecture is where neuroscience meets environmental design. It's this growing field that uses hard, empirical evidence to understand how our built spaces, the sound, the light, the shapes, the temperature,
Yeah.
how all of it affects our brain and our behavior.
So it's about moving away from spaces that are just cognitively draining.
Exactly. It's about designing environments that actively enhance our well-being.
Let's start with one of the most persistent drains. Noise. We think of noise as just annoying, but what is it actually doing to our brains?
Your brain is actively working to filter out background noise, especially irregular sounds, like traffic or conversations you're not part of. And that filtering process isn't passive. It takes energy. It adds directly to that extraneous cognitive load we talked about.
And the impact is significant.
It's very significant. High noise levels, around 95 decibels, think of a busy street corner. That level of noise significantly reduces your attention and your ability to do complex work.
But the effects are also long-term, right? There's a biological price for chronic noise.
There is. High everyday noise exposure is associated with a measurable thinning of the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain you need for focus and impulse control. It also degrades the function of the hippocampus, which is crucial for learning and memory. Noise forces your brain to choose between self-preservation and deep thought.
So things like quiet spaces in an office, or just a good pair of noise-canceling headphones, they're not a luxury. They're a necessity for preserving cognitive energy.
Absolutely. They stop that constant energy-draining activation of your brain's conflict monitor.
Okay, so from sound to sight, let's talk about the power of nature, or biophilic design. Why does just looking at a plant or a view of the sky actually help us focus?
This is explained by something called stress reduction theory, or SRT. Basically, natural scenes, trees, water, complex but non-threatening patterns are evolutionarily linked to safety.
So when we see them, our brain gets a signal.
An almost automatic signal. Your amygdala, the brain's threat center, does this rapid appraisal and just registers safe. And that triggers a physiological response.
Yeah.
Your heart rate slows, and the production of cortisol drops almost instantly.
So that feeling of calm isn't just in our heads, it's a real biological response. The amygdala is literally giving the all clear.
It is. And on a deeper level, we see what's called neural restoration.
Yeah.
Exposure to nature increases alpha brainwave activity. Alpha waves are the signature of a relaxed, wakeful alertness. It's your brain intentionally shifting into a lower restorative gear away from the high-cost beta waves of intense concentration.
What's amazing is you don't need a week-long hike to get this benefit. The dose-response relationship is incredible.
That's right. The research shows you can get significant psychological benefits after just a 10-minute exposure to a natural environment. It could be a park, a courtyard, even just looking at a high-quality photo of nature.
10 minutes.
10 minutes can significantly reduce tension, fatigue, and depression while actually improving your ability to focus afterward. It is a massive cognitive offload.
Let's shift to light. We know light affects our mood, but how does the lighting in our homes and offices actually hijack our biology?
Light is one of the most powerful environmental drivers because it directly regulates our sleep-wake cycle through melatonin production. Our internal clock, our circadian rhythm, is set by light.
So that bright morning sunlight is crucial.
It's pivotal. Consistent morning light exposure syncs up all our physiological processes. It promotes alertness during the day and deep consolidated sleep at night.
And when we disrupt that with, say, blue light from our phones at night, we pay a price.
A big price. It disrupts melatonin release and is directly associated with adverse effects on the hippocampus, again, the part of the brain critical for learning and memory. We also know that just generally poor lighting quality during the day is linked to a thinner prefrontal cortex.
So better lighting can actually reduce stress.
It can. High-intensity morning light especially has been shown to reduce amygdala reactivity. It can literally make your brain less responsive to stressful cues. Light is a critical tool.
Okay, this is fascinating. Let's get even deeper into neuroarchitecture. What about the actual shape of a space? How does the geometry of our workspace affect how we think?
The research on this is really emerging, but it shows that the shape of a room, or even the furniture, subtly impacts our concentration and creativity. When people are asked to do focused tasks, rectilinear shapes, so straight lines, hard edges, traditional desks facing a wall, correlate with a much higher concentration index in the brain.
So the classic office setup actually helps your brain lock in. It reduces visual conflict. What about for creativity?
For creativity, you want the opposite. Curvilinear shapes, soft, rounded designs, curves, along with more collaborative furniture layouts, and of course those views of nature, they all correlate with higher relative theta brainwave activity.
And theta waves are associated with.
Insight, meditation, divergent, out-of-the-box thinking. So the geometry of your space is a subtle but powerful cue for whether your brain should approach a task with laser focus or with open-ended exploration.
Okay, last one, and it's maybe the most underrated factor.
Yeah.
The thermal environment,
Yeah.
temperature.
Hugely underrated. Temperature dictates both your sleep quality and your peak cognitive performance. For you to get into the deepest, most restorative stages of sleep, your core body temperature has to drop by about 1 degree Celsius.
And if your bedroom or your mattress is too hot, that can't happen.
It can't happen. Your deep sleep shortens, your REM sleep is lighter, and you end up with chronic sleep debt, even if you were in bed for 8 hours. Your body is prioritizing thermoregulation over restorative sleep.
And during the day, what's the cost of being too hot or too cold when you're trying to work?
Extreme heat stress especially just crushes complex cognitive functions like working memory. Your body has to shunt resources to cooling itself down, sweating, changing your heart rate, and that comes at the expense of mental tasks. The optimal range for cognitive function is between about 17 and 23 degrees Celsius.
About 63 to 73 Fahrenheit.
Right. Being outside that band is just another environmental stressor that's competing for your brain's limited resources.
The real beauty of this whole approach of choice architecture and neuroarchitecture is that these small external tweaks aren't just temporary fixes, they compound. You're not fighting the same internal battle every single day. You're automating success by changing how your brain forms permanent habits.
That is the end game. It's achieving automaticity. Your brain has a specific neural network for habits, located in the basal ganglia. As a behavior becomes a deeply ingrained habit, your reliance on the effortful, glucose-guzzling prefrontal cortex just diminishes. The basal ganglia takes over. The habit runs on autopilot.
So the goal of environmental design is to make it easy to repeat a behavior over and over again until the basal ganglia takes the wheel and the habit sticks.
That's it exactly. Strategic design uses the brain's own love of routine and energy efficiency against itself, in a good way. But there's also another biological mechanism that helps. We know that certain activities, like regular exercise, release something called BDNF.
Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Sounds very technical. What does BDNF actually do for habits?
You can think of it as neural fertilizer. It helps neurons grow and strengthens the synaptic connections that form the basis of learning and memory.
Okay.
So when you combine the environmental structure, like putting your running shoes right by the door, with the neurological boost from the activity itself, you create the perfect biological environment for that habit to form. The environment removes the friction to start, and the activity reinforces the neural pathway.
And this is why structure is just so much more powerful than relying on willpower alone.
It is. And this isn't just a theory. It's confirmed by the highest levels of scientific review. There was a major meta-analysis of choice architecture interventions.
And what did that find? How powerful is this, really?
It's robust. The analysis looked at hundreds of different studies and found a highly statistically significant effect on behavior. The effect size, what's called a Cohen's d, was 0.45.
And for those of us who aren't statisticians, 0.45 is?
It's considered a medium to large, very solid effect. It means that designing the environment reliably produces substantial, real-world changes in behavior that are really hard to get any other way.
That's the key finding right there. And when they compared different types of interventions, what was the most powerful?
Crucially, they found that interventions that change the decision structure, things like defaults or how information is framed, had a consistently stronger effect than interventions that just focused on giving people more information.
Right. Giving people more information relies on that tired system too. Redesigning the environment hijacks the powerful automatic system one.
That's the whole game.
And this external design can even include social structures, right?
Yeah.
Like adding accountability, which acts as a kind of friction against quitting. Tell us about these public commitment contracts.
Yeah, commitment contracts are fascinating. Websites like stickk.com let you set up these legally binding contracts where you put financial stakes on the line. You'll often have a friend act as a referee to monitor your progress toward a goal like losing weight or quitting smoking.
So you're creating this massive external penalty for failure. It's the ultimate friction.
It is. And the impact on success rates is just compelling. For people who set up a contract but didn't have a referee or high financial stakes, the success rate was only about 29%.
Okay, not great.
Not great. But when the contract included a referee and meaningful financial stakes, that external structure of accountability, the success rate soared to 80%.
80%.
It's just an emphatic demonstration of how external designed accountability reinforces your internal motivation. The structure is doing the heavy lifting, not just the intention you started with.
So we started this by looking at why we fail. Ego depletion, cognitive load, environments that are just actively draining our mental batteries. And we've ended up with this comprehensive roadmap for success that asks us to stop fighting ourselves and start manipulating our surroundings.
It's a total paradigm shift.
Yeah. We've shown how choice architecture and neuroarchitecture can make good behavior automatic, whether it's through simple defaults, the critical power of proximity, or designing brain-friendly spaces for focus and rest.
And the central liberating conclusion is just so clear. You don't need more discipline. You need better design.
Yeah.
We spend far, far too much effort trying to train our limited willpower, our system 2, when we could just be designing our environments to automatically guide our powerful, instinctive system 1.
The environment is either your best partner in self-improvement, or if you ignore it, it becomes your worst saboteur.
That's the choice.
It changes everything when you realize that, a messy desk, bad lighting, constant noise, they're not just little annoyances, they are active, measurable taxes on your attention and your ability to achieve your goals. If you want to change your life, don't start with a new diet. Start with your kitchen. Start with your desk.
Design the path, and your brain will follow. And this brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Research shows that when our brain first processes a visual scene, it focuses on the basic contours of objects first. The details, like color, come last.
So what the brain sees first frames how it interprets everything else.
Exactly. So we challenge you to consider this. What unexpected subconscious cue, what hard edge, what pile of papers, what single piece of visual clutter is dictating the very next decision you make in your most cluttered space? Identify just one piece of visual clutter that might be taxing your anterior cingulate cortex, the conflict monitor right now, and just move it or remove it, because that one small act of design might be the biggest lever you pull all day.
If this helped reboot your human OS, subscribe for daily upgrades. Drop a comment on what new update you installed today. Share this with someone running on low battery.